Recording in progress.
Yo, what up, folks? I'm your boy Trey Frazier, and I got my brother Maestro Styles here with me today.
Yes, sir.
Welcome. It's another edition of the Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast, and we're also streaming live on our YouTube page, our Twitter handle at Barbershop SPOR2, when you can also catch this stream live on our Facebook page, and you can also follow us on our Instagram at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. Another week, man. Super Bowl week, and can't wait to get this thing jumping. What's good, man? How you feeling?
What's happening? Cooler, man. A lot going on, but that is what that is. Happy birthday, happy posthumous, however the word is saying. But happy birthday to the legendary Jay Dilla.
Rest in peace to the homie. Yep.
Yeah,
to the
man.
legend.
One of my favorite producers. I got him. I done had him in my ear all day today. He is currently in my ear as we're recording. So yeah, I definitely wanted to get that out the way, man. What's good with you?
Everything's good, man. Living out here. Just trying to stay healthy, man. That's all.
I can dig it.
That's all that I can count for right now. But speaking of shout outs, let me quickly, and I was supposed to do this last week, but we had OJ Spivey on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he talked about his nomination for the organization that does all the stuff in Philly, the sports writing stuff, and he won the award later that week. So I wanted to congratulate OJ Spivey on that award, and
Salute.
and I'm sure he's gearing up for Arizona since the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, and he's covering that. So props to you, man. Great job, and keep on keeping on, bro. That's some good stuff right there.
BSTP family.
No doubt. So I guess shortly after we was on the pod last week, the following day, Tom Brady puts out this video on IG, and I saw it on Twitter, and he announced that
somebody to take his damn phone, bruh. Somebody to take his damn phone.
I don't want to talk about that. I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about that photo.
Nah, it's no need. I'm just saying that somebody to take his damn phone.
I don't want to talk about that. But the dude came out and said that he's done. I know a lot of folks are skeptic about his announcement of retiring, given that he retired last season. And it took him 40 days to be like, you know what, I'm coming back. And he came back for 1 year just to, kind of tear his family up. Be some trash, tear his family.
I'm not gonna blame him. I'm not gonna speak on the family stuff. I don't know if that was the determining factor in what happened with him and his ex-wife, but for certainly he was trash. He was trash this year on the field for certain.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, the team was trash also.
That's a fact.
But yeah, I believe him this time. I don't think he came back just for that. And yeah, I know they won the division, but the division stunk this past season. They were 8-9, and like you and I talked about, the Cowboys was going to go in there and romp them, and that's exactly what happened. He doesn't want to come back to this stuff, man. I mean, he's 45. He's going to be 46 years old. He's going to, enjoy himself.
Yeah. Clearly he want to be an old freaky white man. So
Yeah, Tom Brady, just go away. Now I heard that he's not going to do the Fox stuff right away, the broadcasting stuff. I think he's waiting a year to do that.
Yeah, he's too busy out here being an old freaky white man.
So I don't want to talk about
I'm disturbed by that. I'm not going to hold you, bro. I was disturbed by it. I didn't go looking for it. I'm just scrolling my timeline, living my life. And there it is. I'm like, bro, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing?
I don't want to talk about it, bro.
All right, I'm sorry.
But But just to kind of, and we don't need to go through all the accolades. We know what the numbers are. We know
First
the
ballot,
accomplishments.
best quarterback to ever do it on the field as of right now.
And some people think it's debatable. Some people still put Montana up at that number one spot.
Ooh, you seen that?
I've seen that. Yeah, I think I think the argument is that he's undefeated in Super Bowls, which is true, but Montana only been to 4 of them. Brady been to 10 of them.
Y'all gotta relax.
Brady been to 10 of them
and won 7 of them. Like, come on, bro, you gotta relax.
Yeah. So
you gotta relax.
Yeah. So
They're trying. So it sounds like they trying to do the Jordan LeBron argument. Jordan is undefeated in all his.
But I also heard this too, and I hope I'm gonna phrase this right. Someone said that he's the most decorated quarterback in the history of the NFL because he played longer and he's got the numbers and he's got all the accomplishments and stuff like that. But some people said that he's still not the best quarterback, meaning maybe from a skill set standpoint, he was never the best quarterback when it came to the skill set. And I had to sit back and think about that, and I'm like, okay, you're talking about Aaron Rodgers, you're talking about Patrick Mahomes. If we're talking skill set, we're talking most athletic quarterback. Yeah, Tom Brady was never an athletic quarterback. We get that. But to try to call him I guess the disrespectful term is compiler. That's just not right. That's just not right.
Look, man, I don't like Brady. Let's be clear about it. As a football player, meaning he used to whoop the Steelers' ass.
Yeah,
I don't like Tom Brady, but like that's in my opinion, that's an asinine argument. He don't throw the ball as well. Look, that's fine. That's like saying the person with potential is better than the person who actually did it.
But some of that is true though. Like, I mean,
sure,
we can knock it. You know what I mean? But some of that's when they talk about skill sets. Some of that is true.
But sure, but what does that have to do in the argument of him being the best quarterback ever? Where does that weigh in?
I think some people put that criteria over other criteria.
Sure,
I think that's where the debate comes in at.
I can't see a logical debate where you could say that somebody who for 20 years put up those kinds of numbers for 20 years isn't the best to ever do it because he isn't as skilled as somebody who hasn't put up the stats that he's put up. I can't fathom that. Respectfully,
I can fathom it. I just don't agree with it. I understand the points. I just don't. I mean, you can't. The guys play 20 years. Like we're never gonna see this again. Like.
And it's not like he played 20 years and was trash, just some guy.
Yeah.
For 20 years, he was a top, probably
MVP candidate in his 40s. MVP candidate.
Outside of last year, pretty much every year he was at least a top 15 quarterback. Mm-hmm. Pretty much every single year.
And even this past year, he was still top 5 in passing yards. Still, I mean,
I ain't gonna really put too much credence in that because.
No, sure, I get it. They had to throw a lot. The running game was terrible. He had to throw a lot, but still, when you look at the numbers, he still was sort of doing those kinds of things with the football. But I can't sit here and not acknowledge, and just kind of like you, I don't like Tom Brady. Next to the Steelers, the Ravens' rival for a few years was the Patriots. And I couldn't stand the Patriots because of him. And, we got him a couple times in the playoffs. He also got us a couple times in the playoffs. But I got to give the respect where it is. 20-something years in the game with the numbers he's put up, nobody, I don't know if that we're going to see that, at least in my lifetime. I don't know that we're going to see that. Like, I know Aaron Rodgers is about to turn 40 this year, but I don't know that Aaron Rodgers is going to play, till he's 45, 46 years old. So we're never going to see this again. Like, this is what Tom Brady has done is highly unprecedented. And I don't think we're ever
Probably
going to see
won't
that
happen
again.
again.
Yeah.
Much like I mean, in some respects, you got to compare it to LeBron and the NBA. Like, you're not gonna see a dude play 20 years and be one of the best, if not the best, his entire career. Like, you just don't see
and
that.
even at this age, still kind of, calling him an MVP. Like, people were still calling him MVP candidate. LeBron, I'm talking about. Even at 38 years old, folks still put him in that conversation. And like in a comparison to Brady in his 40s, people put him in the MVP conversation. He's gonna go down as if not the greatest, one of the all-time greats. Gotta respect that.
You just gotta respect it. Like, point blank period. You gotta respect it. And if you don't, you a hater. You just are. Yeah. And that's fine too, because I don't like Brady neither. But you are a hater.
I'm glad he's gone though. I ain't gonna front.
Good riddance. Good riddance.
I'm glad.
I just need Shade Room to not never cover that again.
See, the fact that I was gonna say the fact that you knew who covered it. I
didn't understand it.
All I did was look. I'm scrolling through and I saw the picture and I'm like, I don't need to see that. Like, I don't care. I don't care who posted it. I don't care who he sent it to. I don't want to see that on my timeline. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Nasty behavior.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man.
But you rich, man. Do what you want to do.
Yeah. He can do what he got his own time now. He can do what he want to do, bro. That's that's what retirement's all about. I hope to get to that point one of these days.
I don't want to get to the Super Bowl yet, bro. I want to talk about Jason Williams or Jay Williams versus Stephen A. Smith.
Oh, you want to get into that? Okay.
I want to get straight to it because I was in the what do you call it? The edge of my seat. I was at the edge of my seat on watching this on Instagram and YouTube. Like, oh my God, it's going.
So before you do that, I don't want to forget we do have a guest coming on with us tonight in about 5 or 10 minutes. So she covers the Colts for ColtsWire at usatoday.com. Her name is Meghan Hall. Actually, we were trying to get her on a few months earlier, but some things happened and she couldn't make it on. But she's going to be coming on with us to kind of talk about also her new podcast that she's got coming out, which we've been invited to, and we thank God for that, and we thank the Most High for the opportunities to do that with her.
We thank her.
Yeah, and absolutely, most definitely. So we're gonna talk about that, when she comes in. But yes, Jay Williams and Stephen A. I didn't think that this was something you wanted to talk about, but
what?
Go ahead, man. I didn't think it was something you wanted to talk about, but go right ahead.
Man? Why not?
So I watched it. I watched it live actually.
Okay.
And I just thought at the end of it, okay, it's just two guys. And now, do I think there's something more behind it? Yeah, I do think there's something. To say, this ain't two guys. I do think there's something more behind it, but I guess for me it was like, okay, we've kind of seen this before on that platform. We've seen Terrell Owens come in there and tell Stephen A. that, hey, you know Max Kellerman's more blacker than you are. Like we've seen those kind of things.
That's one thing he'd guess.
So yeah, right, sure. But I, for real, I saw it. I was like, oh, this is getting juicy. Let's see how this play out. And at the end of the day, it's like, all right, cool. They talk. They hash. Well, I don't know if they really hashed everything out, but it was what it was. So what's your take on it overall?
Few things. This is messy, by the way. Let me be clear about it. This is all messiness. So for those who don't know, amidst Kyrie being traded to Dallas, obviously they got to talk about it. Yep. And I didn't watch. All I saw was the Instagram.
The clip.
I saw the Instagram clip. So I don't know at what point did Jay Williams get irritated. At what point did what I'm saying? I don't know. Right. I know that they were talking about Kyrie and Jay Williams pointed out what I've been saying since this whole Kyrie shit got started.
Mm-hmm.
This seems personal. It's either personal for what I said was it's either personal, like some vendetta he got against Kyrie, or he's realizing that when he talk about Kyrie, the stats are good on him talking about Kyrie, so he tried putting sauce on it to whatever.
Right.
But it's interesting to me because
like Jay Williams said, it's interesting to me. That's what Stephen A. had a problem with. He told him that.
But he don't got a problem with it. That's the thing. Like, for me, and by no stretch of the imagination am I implying that Stephen A. a sucker or no shit like that. That's not what I think. So I don't think he was just doing. I think he was doing it for TV, but I also think he was doing it to challenge Jay Williams because he, whatever. He felt like he wasn't being straightforward enough about how he felt about whatever they were talking about. In reference
he wanted
to
him to
Kyrie's
come out and
situation.
say it.
But he did say it. He finds it interesting that you be putting so much sauce on Kyrie Irving every time his name come up. And it's funny to me because I watched Stephen A. somewhere. I think it was on $1 Million Worth of Game.
Yep, I watched that episode.
Where he was saying, correct me if it might have been this interview where he was saying, well, I've had some conversations behind the scenes, and I decided that I'm gonna chill on Kyrie a little bit because, and he had some inside conversations, and after having those conversations, he was going to chill. It seems like, and again, I didn't watch the whole thing. It seems like that maybe Stephen A. turned up again. Like he ain't just deal with it like a regular conversation. He put sauce in the conversation again, and that's what made Jay Williams jump in and be like, "Bro, like, what is this? Why, like, what is this for real? Like, you keep doing this. Yeah. You've been doing this for however long you've been doing it, and at the end of the day, you could disagree with what he did. Your argument can be your argument. It's been your argument for however long it's been your argument. So you ain't got to keep putting that extra sauce on it every time this topic come up because we know you're going to say the same exact thing. Right. So why are you so intent with putting the extra sauce on it? I know he put sauce on, that's why he's interested on TV. You got to put a little bit of sauce on it to be interesting for the TV. Yeah. But to Jay Williams' point, it seemed like he put in like a little... And it's been consistent for 2-3 years now. So it's like, bruh.
And it kind of got to its peak with the whole vaccine thing with New York and and all that stuff. I think it kind of reached its peak during that time where Kyrie would miss some games, and then the state of New York, or the city of New York for that matter, put this ban on people coming into the arena not vaccinated, and then that kind of thing. Kind of went to a whole nother level. But I'll tell you this one thing too, because I think, and I've said this maybe a few months ago, you and I talked about it. Kyrie Irving with Kevin Durant on the Brooklyn Nets is an NBA Finals contender, a championship contending team. And we know that I think for a while, for maybe about a year or two, that people were hoping that it was going to be Nets Lakers with LeBron and Westbrook and those guys and AD in the finals. And I think that because the Lakers aren't so good right now, and the Nets have this up and down where it's like, God, like we just waiting for y'all to kind of put this thing together because we think y'all the best in the East. Like if y'all just stay consistent. It could be that. Now, it could be something personal, but I also think that having the Nets in the finals has some rewards on the media side of it.
You think Stephen A. you're saying you think Stephen A. numbers wise is incentivized to want Brooklyn to make the finals?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if that's true. I can't say. I don't know how well Brooklyn as a team rates. And, as far as conversations on First Take. Right. As far as, and obviously it's not just First Take. There's other ways that Brooklyn and the finals could affect. They're obviously in New York. So, it's ways that it could affect that show and that network for that matter. So I get it. Yep. But it still feels like, and especially if the conversation is we really want Nets Lakers. Well, let's be honest.
Right.
We ain't got the Lakers going nowhere.
Right. Or Nets Warriors. That's a marquee.
Okay,
that's a marquee matchup.
Sure.
KD against his old team.
Markets.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want big markets and big basketball markets to make the finals. That's more lucrative for everybody involved. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
It still, to me, feels like, and it's funny because he get every interview he does, he has to answer the question.
Yep.
Why you so hard on Kyrie? It's kind of like it's almost like Skip Bayless and LeBron.
But he knows, and he's mentioned this before. He knows, I think his dad's, friends from, back in the day, and I think Kyrie's dad's from the Bronx, and Stephen A's got some homeboys in the Bronx that kind of have mutual relationships and things like that, and there could be something going on there, like within that, I guess, connection behind the scenes. I have absolutely no clue as to why he's been on this high of, talking about Kyrie the way he's been talking about him.
But then,
Mm-hmm.
The conversation between Jay and Stephen A. Some things were said, Jay said something to the effect of, "I got just as much say as you do," and Stephen A. scoffed. I doubt that seriously. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Kind of flexing his, "I'm the man over here. I'm that."
Jay flexes. Yeah, Jay was flexing.
No, not Jay. Stephen A. was flexing that I'm that nigga at ESPN.
Right.
So you could feel how you feel.
Yeah.
And you could feel like you got say within this network and within what goes on.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Stephen A. is ESPN. So if he say, "Hey, I ain't feeling Cuz no more because what he's saying, me and him ain't really vibrating." Let's be clear. He got Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman is at the.
He got him up out of there. Yeah.
He got him up out of there. He on the lower totem pole of ESPN right now because him and Stephen A. wasn't necessarily mentioned.
Yeah.
And they played it off real professional, but I think everybody could read the
TV. They probably got a little beef between them two.
And it might just be creative, creative. That's fine.
Yeah.
But when Stephen A., who run at ESPN, say, our creative thing ain't meshing, he gets you up out of there. Jay Williams might not be around on First Take for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might be right about that. Hey, let's welcome in our guest. She's finally here with us. Meghan Hall, sports writer for ColtsWire at usatoday.com. Also started her own podcast called Blue. Is it called Blue Life, Real Life Stories or something like that?
Real Life Blue Stories.
Real Life Blue Stories. Real Life Blue Stories.
Come on, Curry. Come on, Curry.
I'm not a female, bro. Don't do that, bro. Don't do that.
Come on. Oh, don't get sensitive now, bro. Don't do that.
Come on,
don't
do
be
that
guy in front of our guests. Don't be that guy.
Come on, bro. Don't do that. There's male moderators, bro.
Who?
Huh?
Who?
Google them.
Who better than Curry? Who better than Curry? I'm saying you the best, bruh.
I ain't got time for that. Look, Meghan, thank you so much for coming in. I gotta admit to you, so you did your first episode, I think, a week or two ago, and I was actually searching for your podcast on YouTube, and all of a sudden the results came up with like clips from a Crips movie, and I was like, oh, I don't want to, watch any Crips movies or things like that. So when you type in, whatever your, see, I'm messing up now. See, Maestro got me all messed up now, man.
Cause you losing it, bro.
It's all good. Yeah, but it is on YouTube now. Started uploading those episodes. It's trying to get all the tangible channels that I've got to put this out on now that I'm out on my own and doing the podcast and from underneath Stadium Rant's brand. Mm-hmm. So yeah, give me a minute. We'll get it generated.
Real life Blue Stories. Megan, how you doing today? First of all,
I'm doing good. I'm not too bad for a Tuesday.
I could dig it.
Not too bad at all.
All right. Well, we go straight. Tell us about the podcast. How what was your idea? How did it come about? What's it about?
Yeah, absolutely. So For anybody who doesn't know me, I write for the ColtsWire is where I'm writing now. Big Colts fan, so it's a play on all things Colts, horses, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really big on stories and storytelling, natural storyteller by nature. So that's where the stories part comes in. The blue is just, hey, it's blue for the Colts.
Not
But
Crips.
whenever no, not
Not Crips. Not
no, not
hey,
that.
I was scared. I was scared when I was searching for your podcast.
No affiliation to that. No, but it was just, I was thinking about coming up with my own podcast. I did do one with Stadium Rant. I was previously with them for a couple months, and when I got done, I was like, yeah, I really want to do a podcast of my own and continue like finding out stories and really I like getting to know who people are and their stories and how did they get here to this point, like what were all the things that happened.
Yeah.
So that's where Real Life Blue Stories came in. And to be honest with you, I didn't have a name for the podcast for a smooth couple of weeks. And it just came to me and just hit. And I got a phone call from my uncle one night and he's like, are you busy? And I'm like, no, what's up? And he's like, I got somebody that I want you to meet. And I'm like, okay. And so he throws on Jordan Murray, and Jordan Murray is a current tackle for the Colts. It's on the practice squad this past year. And I'm like, what? How does this happen? And lo and behold, Jordan had done some security at a restaurant and met my uncle a couple years ago in passing, and they stayed connected since then. And yeah, and he's like, yeah, your uncle's been telling me about your podcast. I want to come on. And I'm like, it's not even up yet.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. All day in the
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So that was really cool. So that was the beginning of kind of just validation for, okay, like we're on the right path now. And it was really cool because if you watch the first episode or listen to the first episode, you'll hear Jordan talk about his story and how he got to the NFL. And it's a really cool play on, just again, stories and understanding who people are. And I didn't have to do a whole lot to guide him. He kind of just was like, yep, here's my story and I want to tell it. So that was really cool.
Dope.
So
now, go ahead, Trey. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of go back to the beginning. So,
yeah.
How did you become a Colts fan? Are you from Indianapolis originally, or?
Yeah, I'm not actually. So I get a lot of grief for this, and I'm so sorry to any of my family who may be listening. But so I'm actually from Houston, Texas originally, and was born there, grew up in Dallas area as well. And so when I was growing up, you're either a Texans fan or you're a Cowboys fan, and most of the time it's Cowboys fan.
Right.
So yeah, watched them all growing up and that sort of thing. But really, as I got older, you kind of figure out, I know better than this. I don't want all this heartache and everything else. So just watching football, I started watching a ton of Peyton Manning. I just loved the way that he would dissect defenses, the way that he just kind of commanded the field. Really cool. Just off the field, everyone respects him, that sort of thing. And so, I watched the Colts march to the Super Bowl, this kind of improbable run, the Super Bowl. They didn't start Super Bowl well at all. And I remember being at that Super Bowl party and, thinking, oh my gosh, have I really, am I really about to pick this team to win? Especially after Hester returns the opening kickoff.
Yeah, for real. For real.
But I remember watching that Super Bowl and just really feeling like, okay, like this is a really good team. Like they've done it here. And, just stayed. So once, Peyton Manning left, I stayed. Once Andrew Luck came and went, I stayed. And I just really took to the team in general. I would have to credit that I did a lot of research and a lot of fantasy football playing as well.
Yeah.
That taught me a lot of how to figure out, who plays what position, that sort of thing. And, as a woman, a lot of times we start asking questions about football, and this is no slight to any men, but, you start asking questions.
No, slide them. It's fine. Slide them.
They're looking at you sideways and you're like, oh, why do you want to know? And, they get irritated with you and things like that. So, yeah, that's how I started learning was, all right, I picked the team. Great. Now I'm going to start learning about who's on the team on both sides of the ball. And so it just, it became a passion for me. And, just stay with the Colts and I've been there. So you can imagine when we got Matt Ryan, and I live here in Atlanta, so I got a lot of fun conversation out of that too. Being here and having a Falcons fan husband as well. So,
but you got to be frustrated with the revolving door of quarterbacks over the last 4 years, basically since Andrew Luck announced that he was retiring. Like, you got to be upset about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I would say this. I think that, you get a grace period the first year, maybe even the first 2 years, right?
Yeah,
Figure
yeah,
out what you want to do. But after that, it becomes, the Colts made this assumption that they were only a quarterback away, and that wasn't the case, right? There were
right.
way more inefficiencies on that roster than they had accounted for. And I think now you're seeing that happen in real time. Chris Ballard is atoning for that. And he's saying, oh gosh, we tried to kind of put a band-aid on it until we could figure out what we wanted to do. And it wasn't until very recently, if you watched his end of the season press conference, that he says, well, if we were actually going to take a quarterback, it was going to be in the 2020 draft. But we had traded away our first round pick, which was for DeForest Buckner, which, hey, I get it. You get a chance to get DeForest Buckner.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But, who comes out of that draft? That's Hurts. That's Burrow. That's Tua. Like, they were all in that 2020 draft, right?
Yeah.
That's Herbert. There's four, top tier kind of quarterbacks there.
Yeah.
And so when you hear that, you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's tough, right? And I get it. They were trying to do what they thought was best. After Phillip Rivers, they're like, okay, we'll go get Carson Wentz. Frank Reich gets them all in on Wentz, thinking that that's the answer. Yeah. It doesn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're like, okay, well, we ship Wentz off, and all right, well, what's left? Matt Ryan. All right, cool. We got to see if that works. That doesn't work for a number of reasons. And so now I think it's time for them to get off the carousel. Like, you have to get off now.
Yeah.
ASAP.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, you were one of the ones that put me in my place on Twitter. This is kind of how we started following each other, because I made a comment about the Colts and their offensive line, and you guys was like, hold on a minute, like this offensive line ain't what you guys think it is. And I was like, oh, right. Okay. I said, maybe I need to follow some Colts fans and see, what's up. And then that's kind of how, we started following each other, and then I got the real deal on, what's been going on.
What was the debate about the offensive line?
So this might have been maybe week 3, week 4, and the Colts, I think, had like, they had gone maybe 1 or 3 or something like that. They had just tied the Texans, I think, and they didn't look good. Like, Matt Ryan didn't look all that great those first few weeks. And,
you could say it trash.
And I'm saying, and I was just out there saying, hey, look, like, this offensive line too good for, Matt Ryan to look this bad, right?
Okay.
And then that's when Megan here and Chris, we had Chris on a few months ago. Y'all kind of tag team me and kind of put me in my place about, hold on a minute, like this line ain't is what you think it is, because for about, I'd say 3 years, y'all had like one of the best offensive lines and stuff. So
I mean, it's tough to see, right? Like, when you see that, you're like, oh, you automatically assume it's a Matt Ryan issue. Like, it's got to be a quarterback issue, but you're getting really it's a regression across the line. You didn't get great play out of Quentin Nelson, nor Ryan Kelly, nor Braden, right? Braden Smith.
Yeah.
That's 3 staple pieces right there. They're not playing well, and then you have basically a question mark at left tackle and a revolving door at right guard, and therein lies your issues. I think it's really tough. Chris Ballard said it as well in that end of season press conference. He's like, I made some assumptions that the play would be absorbed by those 3 players, right? Like, they were playing at a high level. So, okay, great. I get that absorption. But my issue with that is there was never any sort of intentionality, really true intentionality about that left tackle position in particular, right? Like, you take Matt Pryor, who had played pretty well, across the line in 2021. So you're like, oh, well, let's give, Pryor a shot. We may not necessarily see anything we like in free agency. Let's just see what we got on the team. Well, Pryor only had 1 start at left tackle prior to that, that start or prior to the season. And then you let Mark Lewinsky and Chris Reed walk in free agency. So you had no answers there in either one of those spots, really. You draft Bernhard Raymond and think, okay, well, hey, that's depth there. But Matt Pryor's so bad that Ryman ends up having to start at left tackle before he's even ready. And right guard was just like, hey, who could plug in here? And eventually it became Will Fries down the stretch of the season, but it was not a great philosophy from the very beginning. So it really, and as you saw, it didn't matter who was quarterback behind there. Like, it was bad all the way through the season.
Yeah.
So did you have high projections going into this year?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I had,
did.
in my mind, I did. Yeah. So I had and Chris and I had talked about this. We had always had reservations about the offensive line. That was where we were concerned, and reservations about weapons. Like we didn't feel like we had enough wide receiver support there.
100%.
So, but I had said, in my mind, I'm like, okay, if we get even decent play out of Matt Ryan, I think that we could. The floor is 9 wins, ceiling is probably 12 wins, right? Like you're having a great season.
Wow.
You had a weaker AFC South, right? You should be able to win those games. I was concerned about games like, the Steelers, which, people are like, the Steelers. I'm like, yeah, but they're our kryptonite. Like, it doesn't matter anytime we play them. Like, we always get, I know. We always get, like, shredded by them. Those sorts of teams. And the Eagles was also, on my radar as well, because I felt like they were going to get some more continuity going with Sirianni and, those sorts of things. But I didn't expect it to go down the way that it did.
Yeah.
The Colts just looked completely out of sorts. From the very, very beginning. And I remember watching preseason games and being like, something's off.
Yeah.
But I couldn't really peg it, and I didn't want to overreact because it was preseason, but it just was like, something feels off. And then you saw it in that Texans game. You're like, oh, what am I watching? And, the wheels came off in the Jags game, and it just unraveled from there. And then they went out and beat the Chiefs, and you're like, okay, so maybe this guy's not falling. But that was one of their only quality wins of the whole season. So you have no idea what to make of this team.
So where are you right? Obviously off season, we're in off season. What needs to happen in your mind to get to that 9 to 12 win type of season? Or do you even believe that's possible going into the season? You seem like an optimistic person. I look at you. You seem like a very optimistic person. You're a glass half full. You're a glass half full.
I'm realistic. I'm realistic as well. So, do I see 9 wins? Probably not. I would be closer to, like, if we get 7 wins or 8 wins, I think that's probably more in the realm of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. To answer your question, I think you got to start with coach first, right? Like that. The Colts are currently in this head coaching search. If you saw earlier, Jim Irsay was tweeting about, hey, it'll come in, the next couple of days or whatever else. Okay, cool, fine.
Yeah, your owner's a lunatic, by the way.
He is a unique character. He is definitely a unique character. I'll say this: you got to start with the coach, right? Like, and it can't be Jeff Saturday. It cannot.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will say that flat out. It cannot be Jeff Saturday. You've got a number of candidates who you could look at. Anybody that you interviewed could work. If I had to pick, I would say lean towards Morris, Steichen, or Callahan. That's probably the top 3 that would be really good fits for the Colts.
What about Eric Bieniemy?
That's an interesting one. So Bieniemy, I wouldn't be mad about, but I see him more as probably an OC fit versus head coach for us. He only got 1 interview. Kafka and Vitrone only got 1 interview out of the Colts. So I thought that was very interesting that he only got 1. We were talking about this in a space the other day on Twitter as well, that we were shocked that Bieniemy hasn't gotten deeper into these coaching cycles. Like, his name always gets brought up. He always, he'll get an interview, something else like that. But he hasn't gotten the head coaching job yet. And I'm just wondering what is holding people up from wanting to, bring him further along the journey. And I don't know if it's getting out from underneath, Andy Reid's shadow.
That's what I feel exactly it is. And it's funny because I remember when he was high and everybody was really talking about him. But then if you're still talking about him after a year, that stuff, it's going to go down. It's just going to go down. And then magically we start hearing stories about Bieniemy don't really call plays. He just kind of there, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. They started throwing salt on his name, and unfortunately, and then even there became stories about how Reid sat him down in some private meeting and said, hey, just cool out. I'm not going to be here that much longer. This is going to be your team type of thing. And I mean, it seems like they just kind of like, all right, bro, we off you right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would be curious to see what happens with him. Obviously I've seen his name associated with like the Ravens. That's a possibility. I don't see it happening for the Colts. I think he would have gotten a second interview by now if they were in on him. But those are my top 3.
So who did get a second interview with the Colts?
So there's a list. So you've got and I'm probably going to butcher his last name. So Rich, I think it's Bisaccia, I think his last name from Green Bay.
The Raiders.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So Rich, Steichen, Callahan, Morris, I'm missing someone as well. Let's see there, and I wrote this name down the other day.
Raheem
this
Morris
whole
would be
list
a
so I
good
could
fit
keep it.
there.
Yeah. I didn't think so as well. There we go.
Yeah, I kind of like Raheem Morris.
All right, so there it goes. Aaron Glenn, Brian Callahan, Shane Steichen, Wink Martindale, Raheem Morris, and Rich, and then Jeff Saturday. So those are the 7. Now, as of yesterday, I was listening to Zach Kiefer of The Athletic. He was on a local Indianapolis radio show, and he was saying that he heard a rumor about a week ago that Jeff Saturday was out, that they were not leaning towards Jeff Saturday. And then Ian Rappaport yesterday told Pat McAfee that the Colts were leaning against Saturday. So that makes me think it may not be. And I did tell, several people, because I've gotten asked this question a whole lot, do you think it's going to be Jeff Saturday? And I'm like, I think it would have already been Jeff Saturday by now. They wouldn't have gone through, this number of candidates just to end up with Jeff Saturday. Like, that's going to look horrific for them.
Yeah.
So I do think that those are the top 3. That would be the first thing, secure a coach. And then you got to get a quarterback in this draft. So if it's going to be Bryce Young, if it's going to be CJ Stroud, if it's going to be Will Levis, you got to pick who you're going to. You're now at 4. And if you feel like, somebody is going to take your guy, you have the opportunity to go up to 1, go call Chicago, get on the phone with Ryan Poles.
Yeah.
Chris Ballard has previous ties to Poles because they worked together in Kansas City. And Matt Eberflus is there as well.
Yeah.
Who was previously our DC. Go get on the phone with them and say, hey, what do you want?
Right.
Yeah.
And we have not only the picks to do it, but you can throw in some players too. You could throw in a Kenny Moore, you could throw in a Ryan Kelly.
Yeah.
That the Bears sorely need, and be able to get that.
So
that's
who?
First 2 reasons I would start there.
So you said you guys picked 4, right? Okay, so I know Chicago's 1. The Texans picked the 2nd. Who picks number 3?
I believe it's the Cardinals. Let me see.
Cardinals.
I think it's the Cardinals.
Okay,
Yeah,
that sounds about right. Well, I'm not so certain that you guys really need to trade up if you feel like your guys there.
That's been my position as well. I think that you could stay at 4 and keep in mind that Chris Ballard is not one to jump at all. Like, he does not jump for picks. Like, he's only traded up 3 times in his tenure, and it was for Kari Willis, it was for Jonathan Taylor, and then last year he jumped up for Nick Cross. But outside of that, that's it. Like, he's never done, this really big jump, and you've seen it. He either trades out of his first round picks, recoups picks, that sort of thing. I think unless, they find out day of draft or a couple days before draft, like, hey, Texans are, going to go get your guy, or another team is trying to jump them. That's the only way I see them, like, jumping up like that. But I would probably say they would probably err on the side of staying at 4, let the board come to them, and pick up their guy.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure. I'll be honest. I'm pretty sure they're gonna get. I don't know who they're high on, but they'll get one of the 3 at 4. I'm confident.
Yeah, at least. I mean, you got to think that at 4 that anybody's in play, right? Because Bryce Young is not assumed to go to the Texans. I've been hearing more and more chatter about maybe it being CJ Stroud. And the Texans. Also possible Will Levis could go to the Texans as well. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could happen in that first 4 picks, but I think that at minimum, like, okay, one of these guys is going to be available.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I always tell people keep an open mind, because if you think about last year's draft, everyone thought all these quarterbacks were going to go in the first round, and the only one who went was Kenny Pickett. And that's it. Yeah. So it also depends on how the league views these quarterbacks as well.
Right. Yeah. And you make a great point, and I didn't even want Kenny Pickett, let's be clear, but I remember the conversation being the quarterback play is not that strong this year, last year. I remember that being the conversation. So, we got him and we're going to see what's going on, but you never know, man.
It wasn't a strong draft. It wasn't a strong draft for quarterbacks.
You never know. Year. But, I mean, I will say that, obviously they'll say that Levis and Stroud and Bryce Young are better than Pickett, Malik Willis, and whoever, I forget the guy that went to Coral.
Matt Corral,
yeah. Yeah, so, I hope y'all find an answer. Not really.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that we do as well. I think that you got to start with some stability for this team. They've long since been the team of winning culture, and you've gotten away from that. Haven't won the AFC South since 2014. You've let the rest of the division kind of catch up now. The Jags have basically been coming for several years, building through the draft and building through free agency.
They got
Titans
a coach.
now,
They got a coach.
Oh
yeah.
Doug Peterson. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the rest of the division has caught up to you, and you have now regressed. So you got to fix it.
Yeah. Although I'm curious about how the Titans move forward, and I like Malik Willis, but in the games that he came in for Tannehill last year, there were moments where it was just like, maybe he isn't ready, like I thought he would have been.
Yep. I mean, I would agree with that. So I saw him in his very first start against the Texans and Titans. I'd actually gone home to Houston that weekend and, went to the game while I was there. And I remember watching, and I'm like, he looks absolutely like scared out there. He looked like, deer in the headlights. The thing is, he didn't have to do a whole lot. The Texans couldn't stop Derrick Henry. And they couldn't really stop any sort of advance that they might have made. I think he threw one throw in the second half, and he just kind of rode Henry, basically to victory or whatever else. But I remember saying in that game, I'm like, he just looked afraid to throw the ball anywhere on the field. And I think he looked better in that Kansas City game, but still looked very much like, deer in the headlights. And I think that was why you didn't see him down the stretch. Like you saw the other quarterback that they picked. Josh Dobbs. And I think that was because they were like, hey, he's clearly not ready yet. We have to do a Band-Aid there. But the other issue with the Titans is Ryan Tannehill doesn't look great either. And I never viewed him as the long-term franchise quarterback. Like, I thought that it was great that they revived his career, so to speak, but I never saw franchise quarterback out of him. So now you have to think with the Titans, like, what are they going to do at quarterback? Like, are they going to bring Tannehill back for another year? Are they going to potentially maybe try to trade up to go get a quarterback? Because I think they're at number 11. I might be off by a pick or two, but they're right outside the top 10. So they could easily make some noise as well. You just got a brand new GM who is going to, turn over that roster and hopefully atone for the mistakes of the former GM, John Robinson. And so now that makes it very interesting on the Colts. Like, the Colts have to figure out what they're going to do because the rest of the division is figuring it out as well.
Jacksonville, they might be here. They just might be here, and it seems like everybody else is going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I mean, the Jags have been slowly building through the draft the last, I would say, 3 seasons or so. Really ever since Andrew Luck retired. So let's start there. They've been slowly building, and everyone looked at them crazy when they brought in Christian Kirk, myself included, when they paid him that big contract. But Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, you go in and you get, Travis Etienne, getting him healthy and going. Doug Peterson has Trevor Lawrence, playing outside of his mind ever since week 9. Trevor Lawrence has been on a tear. And I think, the rest of the team responded. And you have to give credit to their owner as well, because he's been not afraid to spend and or build, as much as they could. So the Jags, I think, have certainly they've turned the corner on being the old Jags, the Jags of the old. And they came. It's crazy to think about the division, but they were 3-7. 3-7, dead in the water, so to speak. And the Titans were 7-3.
It's crazy because the first 2 weeks, maybe first 2-3 weeks of the season, me and Maestro, we were talking about it. The Jaguars played the best brand of football through the first 3-4 weeks of the season, and then they kind of had that 5-game losing streak in the middle, and then they just kind of resurged again.
Yeah, you saw it. Like, I was like, oh, Jags will be, the bottom of the division. Texans will be at bottom of the division. Okay, fine. And I thought to myself, I'm like, all right, Colts, like, you could at least, make this respectable, and come in second. Right. Or whatever else. But to see the slide from the Titans, they had a myriad of injuries. They had issues with their offensive quarterback. AJ Brown completely wrecks them. Quarterback issues, offensive issues, wide receivers not, getting open. They had so many issues, and all of a sudden you slowly start seeing the Jags stringing together wins, and you're like, okay, all right. And in my mind, I said when they beat the Cowboys, I was like, okay.
All right. That was the game.
Jags are for real. Like,
that was the game.
Yep. Yeah. And because you knew that they could overcome any of those sort of mistakes. Like Trevor Lawrence is still a young quarterback, so he is making some of those, kind of younger quarterback mistakes.
Yep.
But
Yep.
short-term memory. I mean, just completely like
100%.
Oh, okay.
100%.
And you saw it in the Chargers game too. Like he threw those 4 picks, and I'm not going to lie to you. I was like, I'm about to go to bed. I was like, yep, I'm done here watching this game. About to go to bed.
I was so mad because I ain't even checked what the money line on the Jags was at halftime.
That's what I was upset about.
That's what I was so upset about.
Because I know the Chargers don't know how to hold leads. I was like, man, I don't know. Because I'm new to sports betting. So I said, I don't know how to figure out how to put $5 that the Jaguars are coming back. And I know I missed out on some money. I know I did.
Oh, definitely.
Somebody had just got finished telling me about maybe a month ago, but when the Vikings came back on the Colts.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I know. I realized it
sorry.
as it came out. I realized it as it came out. I didn't realize. But I had somebody come over. I was doing a session, and he came. He's like, "Man, I just won $700 from the Vikings coming." He was a Vikings fan. I just won $700 for him coming back. I said, $700. I only put down $5. Sheesh. I said, and that's when I realized, I was like, man, I got to get into the sports betting thing. And
bro. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. Like, I went to bed, and all of a sudden, I hear my husband, like, downstairs. I mean, he's screaming. Yeah. And I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? So, I jump up, and it was, like, towards the end of the game, and I'm like, wow, they came all the way back. Like, I mean, I was so exhausted from watching that, and it was so ugly. I was like, no, I'm not about to subject myself to this. Like, I'm going to bed.
It's the Chargers. It's the Chargers.
And he goes, I wish you'd stayed up. He was like, I just put it on because, he's like, something to watch or whatever else. He's like, I'm so glad, he's telling me, I'm so glad I watched it, blah, blah, blah. And I went back and I did watch back the second half. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, they basically went in there with the mentality it's 0-0 at halftime. Yeah. Like we're going, For real. That sort of thing. And it, to be honest with you, I think it said more about Staley than did Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, it was a miracle to me that the Chargers even made it to the playoffs because they also looked terrible down the stretch too.
The fact that he still has a job is beyond me. And I get it, they fired Lombardi, but that was a scapegoat. Staley need to be gone too. Yeah, this has been going on for too long.
Yeah, facts.
This has been going on for too long.
Facts.
It's going on for way, 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 way too long. So in the spirit of twisting the knife, I would love to know your thoughts on the I won't call it a rivalry. I'll call it the history of Pittsburgh versus the Colts.
Ooh.
See, I think about a time Ben Roethlisberger, 6 touchdowns, 500 yards. I think we ran it back and did it against Baltimore the next week too, but if my memory serves me correct. But
nah, you didn't.
Not
that same week.
Oh, not that's it. Okay, all right. But
you're trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Hey, man,
I see.
Sometimes I just shoot and see if it lands. You know what I'm saying?
That was the game that comes to mind because it's still pain. For whatever reason, it does not matter who the quarterback is of the Steelers. Doesn't matter what year it is. It feels like the Steelers and the Chargers are like the kryptonite of the Colts, and you could probably add the Saints in there too.
Yeah.
Today's the anniversary of that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I'm not even gonna lie. When I was watching the Colts Steelers game, actually this season, I'm like, Kenny Pickett is not this good for him to just be shredding this bad. Like,
he's not.
And that's not a slight to Pickett. It's just
he's not.
He's not this good for. I mean, we just looked so out of sorts. He had whatever he wanted. And I can really only chalk it up to Mike Tomlin. Like it has to be Mike Tomlin. Like that's the only thing I can think of. And I'd rather not talk about Steelers games because they just hurt. But
I hear it in your voice.
Yeah. But that's honestly the first like memory that comes to my mind when I think of like Steelers and recent memory is that 6 touchdown game, and all I remember is I think Vontae Davis got burnt.
Yes, indeed.
Like smoked on a route, and I was just like, okay, this is what we're about to do.
And it's funny because Vontae Davis wasn't a bad corner. It was just like,
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, he was a really good corner for 5 years. So, hey, you don't normally see those sorts of things. But I remember in that same game, like T.Y. Hilton dropped a couple of balls, and I was like, "What is happening here?" Like, you know what I mean? Like that's where we were like, "Okay, we're definitely losing this game." Like, it's not. After about the third touchdown, I was like, "Nope, we're not coming back.
Yeah,
we're not coming back at all."
I definitely gotta Vontae Davis, man. I gotta say, man, he's not a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer to me. He's in my. If I could make an NFL Hall of Fame, Vontae Davis is in it because he left the NFL in the realest way ever.
In the middle of a game.
Yep, in the realest way
at halftime.
ever. Yep. He said, "You know what? Fuck this shit. I'm out." and I can appreciate somebody who just like, you know what? I'm good. My money, I don't really want to do this no more. Vontae Davis is definitely in my Hall of Fame, my NFL Hall of Fame for sure.
In addition, I also thought you were going to say because he's from the DMV, right?
Yeah, he is, but no, just because of that though. Decent player, and then you know what? Just said, you know what? All right, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I the thing is when you talk about retirement, people are like, "Oh, you've probably been mulling it over for a while or whatever else." I think he just literally just hit him in the middle of the game when he was like, nope,
"I don't want to do this anymore."
Like he didn't even wait till the game was over, till the season was over. He was like, "No, I'm out. I'm done."
Which was more realer?
And stayed.
Which was more realer, that exit or was it AB's exit against the Jets?
Vontae Davis.
Ooh.
I'm going Vontae Davis.
It's got to be Vontae because I feel like AB was more of like a spectacle, right? Like he had to make it. Vontae just flat out was like, "No, I'm done. I'm not going back out." Like took everything off. Like I'm done here.
I mean,
because the thing is, you continue to hear about AB after that. Like it was always about like AB. Vontae was like, "Okay, listen, I'm exhausted here. I got nothing left. Like I'm done. Let me ride off into the sunset." And you hadn't heard about it.
You haven't heard of
it up until recently, but yeah.
I wonder what that conversation was like. Like your coaches, your teammates, like, "Nah, I'm gonna holler at y'all. I'm gone." You know,
like, "Nah, I'm not coming back in the game."
Yeah, I mean, with AB though, I feel like it was like, you know, he was just like, "Okay, I'm done with this organization," which was fine. Like he's free to make that choice or whatever else. But instead of him just being like, "Okay, hey, I'm not going to play anymore," and like going, like he's got to take off everything. He's got to dance in the end zone and go all the way, go all the way out. And I'm like,
and he's been wilding ever since.
Oh yeah, he's been on every sort of like, what is happening in my mind that
he said James Harrison gave him CTE.
Yeah, recently I saw that he said that James Harrison had, an illegal helmet for 20 years, hit him with it and gave him CTE, and I'm like, how do you string together this story in your mind, and then for you to be like, "Yeah, I'm going to share this," like
because that was in the script apparently.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I need to read what version of the script that was because I completely missed that memo.
So that's another thing that's been going on, and I just want to know your opinion on it. As a writer and as somebody who covers the NFL, obviously more specifically the Colts, but with Arian Foster, who had, to my experience, has always been an articulate dude. Definitely has different, his different thoughts about life, and you know what I'm saying. But I used to watch his podcast years ago. He went on to some show and said the NFL is scripted. Like literally at training camp, they hand out scripts. And as egregious as it sounds, he was there. So he could be lying, obviously, but he could also just be there getting the script. What's your thoughts?
I think Arian likes to stir things up. I think that's probably the first thing. Because, he also tweeted at that point, he tweeted a meme about, and he wrote, and it's the meme that says things on the side of the hand, and things are getting out of hand. Like, I don't think he expected it to blow up the way that it had, on Twitter or whatever else. Do I think the NFL has a script? No, I don't. I don't think people would purposefully sign up to get injured, would purposely sign up to lose games and lose Super Bowls and playoff games and things like that. Like, no, these are people's livelihoods. Like, this is their careers. And to know ahead of time, oh, I'm gonna break a bone. Oh, I'm gonna tear this. Oh, I'm gonna lose. No. Who would sign up for that? No one would sign up for that. I do think that, hey, does the NFL have certain interest in, good playoff games or good matchups or things like that?
Mhm.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
They want to
Yeah.
see those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
Or you see it all the time where it's these storylines that come out of rivalries or whatnot. Like, those are sorts of things where you're like, okay, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Um,
The refs.
but outside of that, oh my gosh, I don't even want to touch that.
The
But
refs.
yes, the refs is another point of contention about, like, is the NFL rigged or things like that.
Yeah.
But I would say no to that as well, because the NFL officiating has been not great across the board this whole season. So outside of the playoffs, like, there have been several games this season where I was like, what were
Snooze
we seeing
fest.
here? Like,
Yeah.
like, it's just, it wasn't great. So yeah, I think Arian just likes to, stir things up. I mean, it would be the first controversial thing that he's said,
Absolutely.
so to speak.
Absolutely.
So it's very on brand for him.
Yeah.
He said, I left with the thought, there's no way that everybody involved in the NFL are this good of actors.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, you got to make it believable, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I ain't gonna front though. That finale, not this past season, but Chargers Raiders, that game, the way it was going, looked like it was scripted. Like
One of the best scripts ever, though.
to tie the game and then to go to overtime and then to act like, hey, if we tie, we both go to the playoffs, right? Oh yeah, let's try to play it out, and then here go dumbass Staley calling a timeout, and then the Raiders set it up and kick the field goal, and they go, and then the Chargers go home. So yeah, that was one of those games where it was like, yeah, they really out for drama. The NFL, that is.
Hey man, that's why we love it.
There's been a couple games this season where I was like, okay, if there was going to be a script, like, this was a darn good script for this game. I think about the Bills Chiefs game last year. Like, that was some of the wildest playoff football I think I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Classic. And if I was gonna say, like, oh, that was a script game, like, I like that script.
Yeah,
like, give me
that.
That was a good game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't buy into the whole there's the script. Yeah, I don't buy into it.
What do you think the Colts script would look like in August?
That's a good one. If I had to choose, I think I would say Callahan as head coach. That's who I would love. I would love to see Brian Callahan there. I would say either, I'm kind of torn on Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, but give me CJ Stroud, because I feel like that's more in brand with the kind of bigger physical quarterbacks like the Colts like as quarterback. I think we would have added another wide receiver, would have added a blocking tight end, even though we don't necessarily need one, but more depth with tight end. Please, for the love of all is holy, some more depth along the offensive line. And I think you go get you some edge rushers, and you could even use some depth in the safety in the secondary. So there's a couple. I mean, when I say this roster has inefficiencies, like, it's mainly on the offensive side of the ball, but there's some areas across the board that could use help. That's where my script would look like. And
you are a hell of a story writer.
I try.
Yeah, I've read a couple of her articles recently. Yeah, she's really good. She's really good at what she does. I appreciate that.
But that's what I would put together. Like, there's these, you got to get those pieces first. You get those pieces and start from there. And really, it goes back to being physical in the trenches. That's where the Colts have been suffering the most. And then the play calling has to be consistent. So whoever is going to be doing the play calling for the Colts, whether that's Callahan or his OC, it has to be consistent. The Colts have consistently, for the last 2 seasons, criminally underutilized certain players, particularly on the offensive side of the ball in tight ends. Like, we haven't. I can't even tell you the last time I've seen a 2 tight end set. From this team. And you gotta get your guys out in space, your playmakers, like, play to their strengths. So if you know that MPJ is a down the seams guy, get him down the seams. If you know that Alec Pierce is a contested catch guy, get him those catches. Like, those are the types of things that you want to see from this team. Like, start there. Yeah, start with one game at a time. For
the longest, I've always thought that they never gave Jelani Woods a shot. Like,
oh my Lord!
Yeah,
don't even get me started. I'm gonna be here for the rest of the night, like, screaming about the underutilization of Jelani. Yeah, I mean, he's a big guy. Like, he and Mo Alley Cox are massive, 6'5" plus, guys. You don't utilize him. I think the biggest play we saw out of Jelani was a 35-yard catch, and that was it for that game. And really, that was really the biggest catch he had all season. But he had game-winning touchdowns against Kansas City. He had some really beautiful catches down the season, and it's like a flash. Like he's here and then he's gone, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like it was just so frustrating, especially because he and Drew Ogletree were tearing it up in camp. Especially Drew Ogletree, and I really hate to see Drew go down with the injury because I really thought he was going to give Mo a run for his money because he was playing that well in training camp. So yeah, they've got some gems on the team. They just need to utilize them.
Yeah. I got one more for you, Megan.
Yeah, go for it.
Who's your top 5 Colts players all time?
Ooh,
this is kind of the part of the show.
Oh, you know what, Maestro? Let me, because you went the past couple weeks. I got a story too, so we did the NBA 75 list a few months back, and we were talking about how, we felt like Dwight, Grant Hill, and a few other people got snubbed for the best 75, right? So the next day we post the episode, we post the clip, and my cousin, who's, big time basketball fan, grew up in the Bronx, he hits me up on IG and is like, yo, why ain't nobody talking about Adrian Dantley? Now, Adrian Dantley was a player from back in the day. He played in the 80s. From like 1980 to 1983, he averaged 30 points a game. And if you watch the NBA back in those days, that was uncommon for a guy to average that much, in the NBA. And so I got to sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, yo, he's right. Like, he's definitely snubbed. And then you try to figure out, why isn't he not in the NBA's best 75? And me and Maestro, we were trying to, decipher that. But yeah, we get those kinds of phone calls or messages every time somebody gives us their top 5 list, and then they'll be like, yo, what the hell are you talking about? You left so-and-so off, and her list is wrong, and, and all this stuff. So we're just going to let you know that we do get these kinds of calls after the fact. So, but it's your list.
Here's the pressure, no pressure, top 5 Colts.
It's your list, though.
So, all right. So, I'm gonna stand beside it, right? I'm gonna stick beside it.
That's right.
So you got to go Peyton Manning. That's got to be number 1.
Yep.
I'm actually gonna go Bob Sanders.
Okay.
I love me some Bob.
Like that.
Definitely gonna go Robert Mathis.
Okay.
Big Mathis fan. Ooh, after that it gets a little hairy. So I am going to say Adam Vinatieri.
Wow. Okay.
So now people don't usually think about Colts kickers, but Vinny is Hall of Famer now.
Yeah.
Right.
And after that, I'm gonna go Marvin Harrison. After that, was that 5? I think
that's 5.
That's 5.
That's 5. And that's tough because I left off Joseph Adai out of there.
I got a problem with your list.
Reggie Wayne,
just so you
Marvin
know.
Harris,
Yeah.
Oh,
No.
I knew somebody was going to. It was tough.
You definitely gonna get me cussed out tomorrow. You're definitely gonna get me cussed out tomorrow.
I got a problem with your list already.
I ain't got a problem with it. I don't care because it's your list, but I'm definitely going.
Wait, you put the kicker in your top 5, and I know you said that you don't think about Colts kickers, but when you think of Adam Vinatieri, I think most people associate him with New England before they associate him with Indianapolis.
I like Van de Jack.
Don't.
I know why you like Van de Jack.
Don't do that.
I know why you like Van de Jack.
I like Van de Jack.
But no, okay. So the thing is, with Benny was epitome of consistency for a long time,
absolutely.
Right? Really, really rejuvenated career. And oddly enough, he spent more time with the Colts than he did with New England by the time he was the end of his career.
Yeah.
So he's a staple there. And it was hard for me to not put Joseph Adai in there. Hard for me not to put Reggie Wayne in there.
I was just about to say
those are the
Reggie.
Those are the ones that I was like, oh, who do I put? But I think for me, you got to acknowledge Adam Vinatieri. You're not winning loads of games, without Adam Vinatieri.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. Anybody else could probably be up for debate. You know, you could swap out several people. I mean, you could have put
Dwight Freeney.
Dwight Freeney in there. Yeah, you could put him in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's
A lot of people like Dallas Clark.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could put Dallas in there as well. I mean, you could have put Andrew Luck in there. Like I could have put lots of folks in there.
Right.
You could have put Johnny Unitas in there. Like I could keep going on this list, but it's tough. For 5 players, it's tough. It's really tough.
That is tough. I agree. Mm-hmm. But regardless, it's your list. I'll take the cuss out for you. You ain't even got to worry about it.
Yeah.
That's good. I appreciate that.
The IG message.
Before we let you go, I got one more knife to twist on you.
Okay.
I got one more because we talked about the history of Colts and Steelers, and we didn't talk about the fumble on the 1-yard line, and Ben Roethlisberger just did a little something. You know, he ain't that fast, but he just wide enough to get in the way and slow it down.
I mean, you kind of referenced this game already.
and with that happening, the Pittsburgh Steelers go on to win the Super Bowl. Miss Hall, you've been a pleasure. You've been a pleasure.
I can't even say anything. I'm like, nope.
You've been such a great guest. Me and Trey, we appreciate you, and we keep in touch. Keep in touch. Yeah. And before we let you go, please plug what your social media, your show that you got going on. Plug it so the people can know where to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter. It is at the Meghan Hall. Same thing on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. It's Real Life Blue Stories. So that's for my podcast. Same thing for YouTube, Real Life Blue Stories. And then you can find me on ColtsWire.usatoday.com. So that's all my content plus the rest of our staff.
Real Life Blue Stories. I got it right.
Real Life Blue Stories.
Real Life Blue Stories. Yeah, I apologize for my unprofessionalism earlier in the show, but yes, I'm gonna get that right.
About to send me uninterrupted.
I'm gonna get that right. I'm gonna get that right.
It's all good. It's all good.
Nah, love. We appreciate you, and like I said, keep in touch, and we'll see you on social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Peace.
All right. Thank you. Peace. Yeah. Peace. That was Meghan Hall. You can catch her on Twitter, also ColtsWire at USA.com. And the podcast, Real Life Blue Stories. Got it right again.
Yeah, man.
Got it right, man.
So we got to talk about the Super Bowl, man.
We do, but
I can't believe we went this far into a podcast.
Yeah, I didn't think we was going to go this far, but it's cool, though. But before we go to the Super Bowl, I did want to throw out there, AJ Green announced his retirement yesterday. From my standpoint, good riddance, because the dude killed us in games over the years. But I got a question for you, and I posted this on Twitter the other day. Is AJ Green a Hall of Famer to you?
Yes,
he is.
He's in my Hall of Fame.
Oh, you're Hall of Fame. Okay.
He's no, he's in the Hall of Fame. Look, 10,000 career yards. What was it, like 5 to 6 seasons of 1,000 yards, and then 6 out of 7 before the injury hit. Really hit. I guess
before he was on his way out of Cincinnati. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, in my mind, that's a Hall of Fame career as a wide receiver. First ballot, maybe not. But for certain in my mind, he's a Hall of Famer. He's in my Hall of Fame. I posted it. And clearly I didn't tag you because you would have known my answer. He's in my Hall of Fame for his bout with Jalen Ramsey when Jalen Ramsey was a Jacksonville Jaguar.
Yeah, I remember that game.
Yoked him up.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, he punched a helmet, bro. He punched at a helmet.
I remember that. I remember that. And and AJ Green, ain't known to be, yapping at niggas on the field. Like that was.
Well, he ain't do no talking.
I know, but that's one of the quietest dudes on the field, and I saw that from him, and I was like, oh, you must have did something like real, like you must have really pissed this dude off, because AJ Green,
he's definitely Hall of Famer.
AJ Green don't do that. So, okay, so I'm gonna I got a different take on it. And this isn't my bias here because, I root for the rival to the Bengals, but I feel like in today's NFL, it's easy for receivers to get 10,000 yards receiving. Obviously, if you play that long enough, if you play 10 years, 12, 14 years, I feel like in this NFL today, it's so much easy to get 10,000 yards for your career. Not to say that, not to say that he wasn't a beast or anything like that. And I'll throw some other examples out there. Brandon Marshall, who I thought was a beast, the time that he played, 10,000 receiving yards for his career, but the dude had, and it's to no fault of his own, but we never really got to see Brandon Marshall in the postseason because of the teams that he played for. We've seen AJ Green in the playoffs, but it was the Bengals, it was Marvin Lewis's Bengals. They never won when they got there, again through no fault of AJ Green. The one game I think against y'all where Burfict hit AB, that was the game that they were supposed to win and it didn't happen. I'm gonna say he's not for now, because I don't, because, and look, and I've noticed this too, like there's a lot of receivers that's like in that top 5, and I'm talking about in the history of the NFL. Other than Jerry Rice, but you look at guys like T.O., Randy Moss, Larry Fitzgerald that are in that top 5, top 10 when it comes to yards and touchdowns and stuff like that. A lot of those guys don't got rings. And again, I'm not going to, hold them not winning titles against them. But it's so hard for receivers to get into the Hall, as we've talked about in the past. It's so hard for them. I think it's hard for receivers to get in. Like Isaac Bruce, it took Isaac Bruce mad years to finally get in. Torrey Holt, another guy that I thought was a beast, for a long time. It took him a while.
So yes, it does take a while.
Yeah.
But when you were a top 5 receiver for 6 out of the 7 years you were there, in your stint, I don't think 10,000 yards. But 10,000 yards is not easy in a career for 2 reasons. One, because that's under the assumption that you can get, let's say, 750 yards a season. That's not easy. This dude was getting 1,000 yards every year up until his injury, outside of 1 year. And in that 1 year that he didn't get it, he had like 970. So so 970. I'm sorry. So I don't think that's. I disagree with you. I don't think there's no way in hell that it's easy for receivers to get 10,000. I don't think that's easy. I don't think that's easy at all.
So I got a question for you. So you putting Brandon Marshall in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Okay.
Not first ballot, but yes.
Sure.
But AJ, and by the way, I'm not putting AJ Green first ballot either.
No, I agree. If you bring the argument to me and say he's a Hall of Famer, but he's not first ballot, I get that. I get that. But Brandon Marshall, I'm trying to think of somebody else. The Jacksonville receiver from years ago, Jimmy Smith. Hall of Famer to you?
Yes. Honestly, yes.
Okay.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
obviously, and if we're just talking about statistically, yes.
Okay.
Because here's the thing about it is that it's going to be difficult because cats like Julio Jones is coming up at some point. I know he didn't retire yet. Right. But at some point, cats like he's coming up. At some point, Antonio Brown is coming up. Those types.
It took Reggie Wayne some years to get.
Right. When you talk about those types of talents, so obviously it's going to take a little while for as good as Brandon Marshall and AJ Green was, they weren't quite Antonio Brown, Julio Jones level. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's
I think AB's first ballot.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think AB, because he did something spectacular. Yeah, I agree with too. I think both those guys, and I guess the point I'm trying to get to is when I'm asking you these questions about other guys is that I think Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Larry Fitzgerald, who I think is a first ballot.
First ballot.
And he better get in on the first ballot.
Yeah. Well, he's he's what they call the media darling. He's definitely going first ballot.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't do anything wrong. He cooperates with the NFL. Like,
right.
You know.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah, we know he's going to be first ballot.
Sure. I think what separates and Larry doesn't have a title either. I'm just thinking about something that you do spectacular throughout your career aside from the numbers. So when I think about Larry Fitzgerald, I think about the playoff run in 2008 where he just went ballistic right before you guys had won the chip in 2008.
I'm willing to bet I can count at least 200 receiving yard games of AJ Green. At least two.
You said 200 receiving yards?
Yeah, like in a single game where AJ Green had 200 yards.
Okay.
Like that's not
okay. Yeah, and that's hard. I'm
about to say don't dare.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just Larry did it on the biggest stage. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Those 2 games you're referencing to AJ Green, that wasn't really on the biggest stage. That was I'm assuming those are regular season games that you're referring to. Larry did that on a playoff stage.
Larry Fitzgerald had a 200-yard receiving game in the
No.
I'm you just saying he balled out.
I'm talking about the playoff run, and to me that was probably one of the more legendary playoff runs from a wide receiver I've seen in a long time.
But you're also putting Larry Fitzgerald. You're not putting Larry Fitzgerald in the realm of AJ Green. You're putting Larry Fitzgerald in the realm of Julio Jones and Antonio Brown.
That's correct. That's correct.
Right.
Yep.
So that's kind of like a skewed argument because AJ Green is that second tier Hall of Fame type of receiver. You know what I'm saying? Larry Fitzgerald, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Andre Johnson, like those the dudes.
Yeah.
And then there's that second tier of guys like the Brandon Marshalls.
Yeah.
Calvin
Johnson is first tier.
Right.
And he's already in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But
right.
yeah. He's
right.
He's
so
in
yeah, that's just a little different because AJ Green when he's and then to add to the argument, put AJ Green with Kurt Warner.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the franchise, Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco.
Yeah.
Is he a Hall of Famer to you?
100%. But
okay.
Again,
I agree. I agree with that.
But he's on that second. He's high, but he's on that second tier with the Brandon Marshalls and the AJ Green.
So it sounds like I guess the conclusion of this, it sounds like you get 10,000 receiving yards, you're a Hall of Famer. Is that like the threshold for that?
I think so. I can live with that because
okay.
Yes, because be honest, when I looked at his stats, I said, 10,000 yards, that's good.
Okay,
that's good. And then I think about, and then now my next thing is like, all right, well, moments. I know how he cooked us, how he's cooked us. I know how he's cooked y'all.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So he's there. He's a dominant wide receiver.
Yeah.
Again. Not with the upper echelon, but he right on that second tier. He's right on that second tier. He was a top 5, top 10 when he was in his prime. Every year he was a top 5, top 10 every
what
year.
What about a cat like Derek Mason? Derek Mason's got 10,000 yards receiving.
Yes,
Hall of Famer.
His run in Baltimore was his. Even as they he
appreciated it. Yeah, I appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Because I mean,
I think the thing is about it now is that because now they throw so much.
Yeah.
You're going to get people who are going to get in the hall just for being able to catch the balls and being dominant in their time. They're getting more targets. They're getting more targets.
Yeah.
So I can get how you might try to trivialize 10,000 yards. Not saying you're trivializing it, but maybe that's not the accolade that it looks to be. But quite frankly, it's not going to be a whole rack of receivers that dominate top 5, top 10 wide receivers for 7 years.
Yeah, because Derek Mason, you wouldn't say Derek Mason was dominant. You would say when you look at his career, you say I know he put numbers up, but I don't think you would say he's dominant. I think you would just say Derek Mason played so long that he was able to get them opportunities. And when he came to Baltimore, he was the number one, right?
Yeah.
Like he was the guy. So, but there was nothing like when I think about Derek Mason in the postseason, like there wasn't no like moments that he had on the biggest stage, or even like in the regular season. He's made some clutch catches for us, but when you think Derek Mason, you don't necessarily put the dominant
might be 20,
category on him.
Right.
Yeah.
Might be 20 years. So maybe Derek Mason is that third tier of Hall of Fame receiver. Like maybe we're kind of creating tiers as we go along right here.
Yeah.
Another one that's in that second tier you didn't mention was Anquan Bolden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anquan Bolden is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that I agree with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, alongside Fitzgerald in that same postseason I referenced, he was doing the same too. And even for us, when we won the Super Bowl, dominant. So
Steve Smith is a Hall of Famer.
Steve Smith is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I think Steve Smith's first ballot. I think that man, I mean, again, for me, it's playoffs, biggest stage. That guy had moments, when he played in the Super Bowl, and he balled out in that Super Bowl that they was in.
Just the fact of the matter is there are going to be a lot more wide receivers entering the Hall of Fame because we're more of a passing league now.
But don't you think? And I'll wrap it up with this question: as we go, 10 years from now, where this phenomenon of throwing the ball and targets increase. Don't you think that threshold of 10,000 receiving yards is going to change as we go along the way?
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's a logical question. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm thinking at some point they might move that goalpost. Maybe it's not 10,000. Maybe it's
well, that's only us saying that 10,000 is the threshold.
Right.
I'm not saying AJ Green is a Hall of Famer just because of that threshold.
Right.
Again, he was a top. It's that, and he was a top 5, top 10 receiver.
Yes.
In his prime, he just was. Yeah.
All right. Well, shout out to the homie, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I guess we get to the Super Bowl. So.
I hope nobody came
man?
to watch our show for Super Bowl coverage because damn, y'all just sat through a whole hour and a half.
I mean, is there really much? Well, I don't want to say that there is not much to talk about because this is one of them Super Bowls where it's like, this is one of them ones where I mean it can go either way. Like to me. That there's really not a huge mismatch between these two teams. With that being said, for me, it's fly Eagles fly for me. And the reason is offensive line, defensive line, man. They those units have been dominant all season long.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Kansas City side and you say, okay, Patrick Mahomes. He balled out against Cincinnati. He played that whole game on one leg, and I don't know what the expectation is. People are saying, well, he should be healthier, for this game. I don't know that necessarily he should be healthier for the game, but I do know that this guy is going to show up, and you're not going to kill this guy that easy unless you're the Buccaneers from a couple years ago. But you're not gonna. This guy's not going to go away. I mean, I could see this game coming down to a 2-minute drill, right? Like I could see Mahomes with a chance to win it. I could see Jalen Hurts with a chance to win it. But I think the trenches for Philly is going to be the difference maker. It's the difference maker.
Is what I've been. I mean, they legit rotate freaking 8, 9, 10 people on their defensive line. Like they literally do that. According to the NFL script that was leaked online, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs 37-34. I'm going to put $5 on that bet.
Yeah. I checked out what the money line on was at, by the way. So on the FanDuel joint, it is plus 20,000 right now. So yeah, I'm putting some money on that particular score, not necessarily like a parlay or anything.
Yeah,
I'm putting the money on this gonna be the final score.
So I'm telling you, if this script shit is real,
Hey,
hey,
at least I'm gonna make some money off. Let me make some money off of it, right?
let me make some
You know what I'm saying?
motherfucking money
You know what I mean?
on the script leak. Thank God for that. Thank God for the internet.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put $5 on that just in case, and I will also do a parlay, but
yeah, I'm gonna do that too.
for sure.
I'm gonna do a lineup too. I'm gonna do a FanDuel lineup also for this game too.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
But I agree with you that look, man, and I would love to be wrong because if Patrick Mahomes wins this game, he balled his ass off. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
There's no other way there's no other way the Chiefs win this game.
Yeah.
The only way the Chiefs win this game is Patrick Mahomes went ape shit.
Magical.
I'm talking 354 touch, like he went crazy.
Yeah.
That's the only way I see them winning this game. Philly's too good on both sides of the ball.
Both sides.
They're just too good. Just too good.
The number that stands out on that defensive line and really that defense for that matter, 70 sacks. 70 sacks in a regular season. 4 guys with at least 10 plus sacks. Like that's crazy. You know what I mean? So I think it's gonna be a great Super Bowl though. I think it's gonna be a great game.
Yeah, it's been fun. I don't know if Jody knows Breezy on Twitter, but it's been fun watching their timelines all week. Jody obviously a Chiefs fan and Breezy a Eagles fan. It's been fun watching them be so excited about their teams being in the Super Bowl. So shouts out to them.
Shout out to Breezy. She went to the Senior Bowl to cover the Senior Bowl a few days ago. Shout out to her.
That's what's up.
Shout out to her for doing that. So
yeah, but for sure, I definitely got Philly winning. I don't know if it needs too much more analysis, but I definitely got Philly winning, and I'm gonna go with. And just because the script was leaked, I'm going 37-34 Philly.
No doubt. I do want to make an announcement.
Steve Wilks.
Steve Wilks, defensive coordinator for the 49ers. Yes.
Shout out, black man. Get that
shout out to him. Brian Flores, and I know you hate to lose him, but
I do.
Defensive coordinator for the Vikings.
And we just talked about it, and we just talked about the Vikings, and we talked about how this window is shrinking.
Yep.
Bring somebody in that's gonna fix that defense. I wish nothing but the best for Brian Flores.
Yep. Yeah. No doubt. But for the Super Bowl, like we did last year, we're going to be doing a giveaway. I got one T-shirt left. It's the Barbershop Sports Talk podcast merch. It's a T-shirt. And I got a keychain also that I'm going to give away. So, for all y'all listeners that don't follow us on Instagram, you can follow us at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. I'm going to post a Insta story question the day before the Super Bowl. Predict the correct score, predict the winner, or whoever's got the closest score to the final score. I'm going to send you guys a T-shirt and a keychain by Truly Yours. So,
for sure.
So y'all be on the lookout for that. One more thing, man. Quick thoughts on the Kyrie trade to Dallas.
Good for them. They needed to get some of that pressure off of Luka. It might work, it might not work, but you made a very good attempt at trying to get some of that pressure off. Do I think this is a finals type of move? Yeah, but you're gonna need another piece. It's not gonna just losing Finney Smith. Losing Finney Smith is an issue.
And losing Dinwiddie. Yeah, I
don't think losing Dinwiddie is that bad because Dinwiddie does what Kyrie does, but Kyrie does it better, obviously. You know what I'm saying? He's he's a scorer. He's a scorer. He handles the ball and he scores. That's what Dinwiddie does. Yeah. So I think that the Dorian Finney-Smith loss is a bigger loss than Dinwiddie because that's perimeter defender.
The Mavericks still don't have a bench. That's a concern for me still, and I get that Luka's got help. Kyrie's going to provide the help. But like you said, if you're Dallas, you're in the Western Conference. There's really nobody that, you know what I mean, like
It's wide open.
The Warriors, like Steph is
It's wide
out.
open.
Steph is out for a few weeks. Like, you know, do we really believe in the Nuggets? Do we really believe in Memphis? Do we really believe in the Pelicans? Like,
and they on a slide.
You know, right. The Suns, like, do we really? You know what I mean? Even though the Suns got there a couple years ago, like, still, you know.
Oh, I told you I don't believe the Suns no more. After Luka dealt with him Game 7, I don't believe unless they go get Kevin Durant, which has been in the rumor mill.
That's been a possibility there.
I don't believe the Suns. I don't believe them.
Well, I'm not gonna go that far. They did go to a finals, and you know that Game 7
smoked there too.
That Game 7 was more about CP3 and Booker not showing up in the biggest game of the series. Like,
so why we believe them? Because they didn't show up. Why we believe them then?
You think that's gonna happen again? I don't think that's gonna happen.
And they also Luka was there. Let's be clear.
No, I get it, but Luka's always there. Like, that's like I'm not trying to take anything away from Luka. That's what I expect from Luka Doncic. But I don't expect Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and I forget what the numbers were, but they got beat. They got beat handily. They got their ass kicked, bro.
In Game 7, I don't believe them.
They got their ass kicked, bro.
I don't believe them.
That's an anomaly. To me, that's an anomaly. I just don't see that. I don't see that bad of an ass whooping by them again.
So you can see the Sun.
If they lose a Game 7 by like
I'm just talking about
3
them going
points.
to the finals because they're still in the finals. Everybody said the Suns.
Sure. I
don't
get
believe them. So
sure.
you think they can go to the finals?
I think they can go to the finals. I think they can go to the finals. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think so.
I don't think they're gonna get beat bad like they did, but yeah, I think they could go to the finals. And like you said, West is wide open, man.
Wide open. I agree with that. That it's wide open.
It's wide open.
I do agree that it's wide open. And the only star in the Western Conference that I trust right now is Luka Doncic.
Okay, interesting.
And Steph Curry, but and Steph Curry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, because if Golden State gets in the final 8, and if they're like a 6 seed or 7 seed, like, would it shock me if they went to the finals as a 6 seed, 7 seed? No, it wouldn't shock me. But I think what Golden State has, not to turn this into a Golden State conversation, but there clearly is some issues on that team. I mean, it clearly something going on there. So, but yeah, we gonna see, man. And on the Brooklyn side, look.
I don't get Kevin Durant about it, there, man. I heard a story. I did see a story today, though. Even though I said something about Phoenix, I did see a story where Slim said, the owner said, he ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
They're gonna go in and have a conversation about what they could be doing better and like basically what they did in the summertime.
Right.
This just happened in the summertime. So it's like, bro, like stop holding them captive, bro.
Yeah.
Just gonna let them go.
Yeah, exactly.
Just gonna let him go, bro. Like, you just got rid of his man. And look, granted, truth be told, he wanted to go. He wasn't really giving you a whole bunch of play on the court anyway. All right, go ahead, let him go, see what you can get. And they did get pieces for him. I mean, but not necessarily championship pieces, but good pieces that you can kind of build on until your next star comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, just go on to cut ties, man. The experiment didn't work. It didn't work.
It's a failure. Yeah,
it didn't work.
It's a failure. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Stephen A. alluded to keeping an eye on the Celtics.
I saw that.
I'm not so certain about that.
We did have that conversation earlier this season.
I know, but I'm not so certain. Like, why? Like, again, that's the team you got to go up against. Like, that's the rival. That's the rival.
About that?
I get it. I get it, but why? Like, why I want to make you better, and I got to go through you.
We ain't going nowhere as Brooklyn. We not going nowhere.
Well, look, if people look, do people still say KD when he's healthy, best in the game, best in the world?
I do.
Okay. Hey, if you healthy, ride the season out See what happens.
Why? Well, that's never been.
See what happens.
That hasn't been his history, though.
I get it, but see what happens.
I'm the best.
Maybe
not the best.
maybe Middleton is not what he was a couple years ago. You know what I mean? Maybe the Celtics, maybe they take a step down. Let's see what happens. Philly.
Yeah.
Do we trust James Harden? Like, come on. If I'm Brooklyn,
hey man,
stand pat.
KD might not be trying to hit none of that shit you talking about. KD might be saying, "Hey, I'm trying to get a chip the easiest way I can get it. I'm already that nigga."
Well, look,
I'm already that nigga.
If you and I know, if they somehow get to the finals with this roster here, and let's be clear, Dinwiddie's on this team now.
Yeah.
He's back on the Nets. Finney-Smith is on the Nets.
Yeah.
They still got Seth Curry. They still got Nick Claxton. Their bench, I kind of like their bench a bit. Ride the thing out. See what happens, man. I mean, you never know when this. You just never know. I don't think there's a. Is there a dominant team in the East right now? Like, is there
I mean, I don't know who's done. I don't even know, bro. You asking the wrong
right,
person
right.
I'm not even locked in right now.
Right.
I'm saying because I'm not even locked in.
Nah,
right
I know, but I'm saying you're right. You're like, even with you not seeing what's going on, you're right. Like, I don't think there's not a dynasty in the East right now. I mean, I get Milwaukee's got the chip already. I get Boston's been there last year, but come on, I think if Brooklyn, stand pat. Let's see what happens. And he's locked into what? 4-year deal? Something like that? So, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Shout out to, I forgot to shout out Chief Rocker in the Facebook Live chat. Was good, man. Appreciate you coming in with us. Also, everybody tuning in on Facebook Live, Twitter Live, and YouTube Live. Make sure y'all continue to follow us on the platforms. Y'all can check us out on our Instagram at Barbershop Sports Talk Podcast. If y'all got questions or comments, you want to email us. It's barbershopsportstalk1@gmail.com. And drop us a review. If you listen to us on any of the platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, drop us a review. Let us know what you think. And that all be good with that. Hey man, looking forward to this weekend, man. Looking forward to next week. And
man, are we recording on Monday or no, bro? Because I hate to be breaking fourth wall, but I need to know because
yeah, I'm working on that.
Right,
but I'm 99% confident that we can
it's
get
Valentine's
that.
Day on Tuesday. I'm just telling you, my kids ain't having it.
I got you.
My kids ain't having it. I ain't got no date except for my kids, but they ain't having it.
I got you. I got you, my G.
All right.
I got you, homie. All right, folks. Y'all have a rest of the, a good week. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll be back next week to recap it. Peace, one love, and mind your own business.
And drink some water.
Recording stopped.